So we are back. So I did like a whole monologue, a really good monologue, and I totally forgot to start recording.
Yep, he totally started. Yep, totally.
So anyway, let's try that again because it was a really good one. So with Peanut Gallery talking about the cultural significance of the actual promotion, let's go back in time because I want to talk about pay-per-views like Rebellion that we may have not have seen again or we will never see again. And I want to start off with the first TNA show, the first weekly pay-per-view show that was not called NWA TNA number blank. And that was TNA First Anniversary. They had 2 that were under this brand. And I only want to talk about one because the other one sucked. It actually was a recap of that entire year, which I'll talk about here soon. This event itself was very uneventful. There were 400 people in the stands, and it is what it is. They did not treat it as an anniversary show. Nothing in there was anniversary ever. But they did name it differently because it was the anniversary. That's really all I have to say about that.
Okay.
In 2003, they had a very interesting show. It was called TNA One Cent. The initial purpose of this event was going to be its first reoccurring show that was not called anything else. But due to circumstances that I could not find, they had to cancel the card. So, 1 Cent did take place in 2004, but it was a recap show of the greatest matches at that time. And we have never seen it yet, nor do they have it. But TNA still holds the copyright for 1 Cent for pay-per-views. So we don't know what's going to happen there, but I even checked with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and they do still hold that trademark.
Nice.
Let's talk about probably one of the most famous tournaments. Oh, wrong one. One of the most famous tournaments that we know of, the World X Cup. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't originally called the World X Cup. It was first called the America's X Cup for the first 3 shows that this started. And the first 3 shows was actually 3 separate pay-per-views when they were running pay-per-views. Because the only companies that were in this were South America, Central America. It was Team Canada, Team USA, Team Mexico, Team Central America. I don't know why they separated out Central and Mexico, but whatever. And the winners of that was actually Team Mexico throughout the entire course. It was only for that 1 year that they changed, that they had it as known as the America's X Cup, because then they brought in Team Japan, and then they called it the World X Cup. We haven't seen it in a very long time. I really hope they bring that back because I really enjoyed it. Maybe not now because of pandemic. I mean, right. Peanut Gallery and I, we live together, but we're in separate rooms for social distancing.
I'm right here. See, I can slap the bitch right here. See?
Go away. Anyway, so Victory Road 2004, a very uneventful pay-per-view, but this is a very...
This was the first one.
This was the first...
That was the first monthly 3-hour Sunday night pay-per-view.
Actually, no, this wasn't the first monthly. So the first Victory Road pay-per-view was in November, but then they had, I think it was Destination X in December. So actually, it was until 2005 when they did one show monthly pay-per-views.
But this was the first one that took place on a...
Yes, this was the first pay-per-view in the Spike TV era.
Right.
Yes, so they started out in November of 2004, and this is when this happened. Their first, non-weekly pay-per-view.
Right.
But they still had to do the monthly because they had this one and then, obviously, Destination X, I believe, in December. Very uneventful. Nothing really interesting happened. Obviously, Victory Road still exists in some way, shape, or form, but I feel like this one is important because this was the first big one where they made big time. Because this is when they got that Spike TV deal.
Hooray.
Now, one that I will never understand, and I will literally never understand this in the history of the world. On September 11th, 2005, they hosted Unbreakable. Unbreakable, other than the main event, Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. Triple threat for the X Division Champion.
The best match that TNA or Impact has put on history.
Ever. Still to this day, the only TNA match that has gotten 5 stars from Dave Meltzer.
Yep.
They only had one Unbreakable. One. How? Why? And for what reason?
No, they had one in 2019.
They did?
Yeah.
No, this was a pay-per-view.
No, it was Impact Plus.
Yeah. No, this is pay-per-view. That doesn't count. Impact Pluses don't count.
Oh, fine. Oh, that's fine.
Well, they don't. I mean, maybe they will at some point in time, but for right now...
It sounds like they are, but we're going to talk about that in our final segment.
Yes, we will. But, and it was like, okay, come on. You guys had this match, and for some reason you did not capitalize on it with more on top of, like, one of the most legendary matches. I mean, the show itself was fine. I think they had, like, Rhino and Raven for the NWA World Champion, third of final. But you just can't beat 3 originals going at it. The build was great. The match was great. The crowd was so into it. This is a pay-per-view that I'm so happy to watch back. And I'll watch it back over and over again because this match was so great. Let's now, from pay-per-views that went one and done to a pay-per-view concept. For the most part, that was one and done. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the original Hardcore Justice that replaced Hardcore Justice. The problem with this is that they wanted to do an ECW anniversary show because they had Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, Mick Foley, Rob Van Dam, Sabu, etc., under contract with TNA.
Right.
But because of copyright reasons, they could not say TNA.
Or ECW.
ECW, pardon. Thank you.
Thick.
So I remember watching this live, and Taz was on commentary. Once again, another ECW original. They just tried their fucking damnedest. Now, WWE, at the very least, were not weird, but the show itself was bad. It was a very bad show. There were some people who could still do it, but I think Jerry Lynn was supposed to face Rob Van Dam, but Jerry Lynn got hurt. Right. So Sabu had to come in. Their match was dog shit. They had this weird,
garbage.
It was. They had this weird blue light over the whole time, and it made no sense because ECW did not do that ever. So that was super weird. But this is something... Now, they still do Hardcore Justice, but the problem is that when you do a hardcore show, have every match do hardcore.
Right.
And this is why I equally love and hate shows that have, like, themes. Either you have all the matches that are themes or don't do it at all.
That kind of what Lockdown, I mean, as cheesy as it was.
Kind of what Lockdown and Hell in a Cell and all TLC.
Hell in a Cell was never that way. TLC was never that way.
I know, but if you do this, might as well have all of them have it.
I know. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's why that Lockdown was, again... where TNA was a pioneer, every single match was inside of a cage. As cheesy as it was the one night a year.
It was a one night a year where every goddamn match made fucking sense to have it. Wow, really? Well, that was only 23 minutes? Anyway, so I finally want to talk about, I think, the first turnaround show to our current TNA product, or our first Impact Wrestling product.
Okay.
I'm talking about Redemption.
Ooh. So redeeming.
So, I'm gonna fucking kill you. The problem is that we had Triple A, which we'll talk about next week, and Lucha Underground stars in Redemption. Mm-hmm. This was the first one under the Scott D'Amore era.
Yeah, Scott D'Amore.
And I think this was the first one to really break away from the past. Because at this time, TNA still had a very infamous record as a promotion. With all the scandals and all the lies and everything that happened, where any other company would have folded or went under. We have seen less from promotions across the world. But TNA, this is something that Sami Callihan did, and Peanut Gallery made a mention.
Yep.
This company is the cockroach of professional wrestling.
It will not die. But not a cockroach in a bad way. In fact, I'm actually glad
This is a cockroach that gets bigger and stronger every time that they do something.
I mean, they were pushed down. They were kicked through the mud.
From bankruptcy to scandals to everything underneath the sun. Dixie Carter, lawsuits up the ass. Nothing can happen. And this show, I think, really epitomized what we know today as Impact Wrestling. It started with redemption.
Yep, it did.
And from 2018 till 2021, right now, there has never been another one. And I don't want another redemption.
Right.
If they do something weird, I want this company to fucking die.
Right.
Because they just can't go wrong. This was it. And this is what we know now of. But when we come back, we're going to make not only Impact Wrestling majestic again, but we're going to make fucking pro wrestling majestic again.
So we'll be right back.
Absolutely.